Hey, everybody, welcome to the Bill.com discussion all about how we can grow our revenue, grow our businesses, and improve operations with the right digital tools. You are in for a treat. We're going to have a good time today. My name is Ramon Ray, founder of SmartHustle.com, and I am so excited to be joined by Tom Clayton, Chief Revenue Officer at Bill.com, who's going to bring his insights, his expertise to us today. We're going to have a great discussion. If you're hearing the sound of my voice, feel free to put into the comments how excited you are to be here. Maybe put the city you're from, your favorite beverage, what you like to do on the weekend. Let us know you're here as we're talking and discussing. Also, put into the comments questions you have. Put in the comments, affirm things we're saying. We are definitely going to have a good time. Tom, you're welcome to come on the screen, and we will get right to it today. Tom, how are you? And I hope you're feeling well. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. I know you're a busy man, but I'm glad you're here. How are things in your world?
It's great, Ramon. It's great to be here. And that positive vibe is contagious. So thanks for the wake up.
You're welcome. It's hard. The music, even though it's elevator music, it was good. I was in the background, vibing a bit with it. But we have a lot to discuss today, Tom. In the 28 minutes we're here together, and I'm really glad to get your wisdom, your insights as CRO, of course, of Bill.com, but also the expertise you have before as well. As Chief Revenue Officer, just to set the stage for who Tom is and how special this is today, Tom leads all sales, marketing, and strategic partnerships. Prior to Bill.com, Tom was an early executive at House, which some of you may have browsed through a lot of their pictures, the world's largest home renovation platform. Also CEO of Bubbly, a social media messaging service backed by some of the biggest and best investors in the U.S. and globally. And Tom was GM of the mobile business at BEA or B Systems. So Tom is a serious dude and knows a lot about a lot of stuff. I'm really glad that he's here today. So Tom, let's jump right into it. Most people listening to us today know what Bill.com is, but for the few who may not, help us understand why especially Bill.com is what you do, but really well positioned to talk about how to grow our operations using some cool digital tools. Tom?
Yeah, let me, get out of the fintech techno speak and just summarize it for SMB entrepreneurs out there. It's basically a set of online tools that simplifies, digitizes, and automates both your payables and your receivables for SMBs. Being able to help you get paid faster and simple, and leave the headache out of the back office for you.
Absolutely. I love it. And you guys have done some acquisitions, I think, recently. Yeah. So congratulations on that. Who did you acquire, and how will they help you serve more customers? Talk about that if you don't mind for a bit.
Yeah, we just made a relatively large acquisition of a company called Divvy. I'm actually here in the Divvy office in Utah right now. They're a leading spend and expense management provider. In layman's terms, what they've done is infused a smart company card with a software platform so that you can see in real time all of the expenses that are happening within your company over this platform, and control them and allocate them accordingly. So it just gives you much better controls of what's being spent across your company. And it's a great team. We're really excited to have them on board. And we're a few weeks into working through that integration.
I love that. Absolutely. And I know that you know, and I know that small businesses are very important, small and medium-sized businesses. We love our big business brethren and sisters, but I think there's really something special about small businesses or SMBs, Tom, that's very important. As most of us know, they take up about, or they generate about 50% of the U.S. GDP. And I think that one thing that's so important to business owners is the aspect of cash flow. That's really important for us. Why I think this conversation about how do we grow, how do we expand, how do we use digital tools are important. But there's a few other things I know that are important to you, Tom, about SMBs in general. Help us understand some of those key points, why it's so important to you and Bill.com as we dive into this discussion today.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And you're spot on. Look, I was attracted to Bill.com mainly because of the mission of simplifying and connecting businesses, but really focused on SMBs. Like our founder, who's a fourth generation entrepreneur, I'm what you would call a serial entrepreneur in my career. And, when you're an entrepreneur or you're running your own business, you want to focus on what your superpower is, whether that's building and innovating on the product or selling the product or thinking strategically about how to expand the business. You don't want to think about the mundane back-end processes, but that's a fact of doing business. We all talk about the sexy success stories, and we rarely talk about all the laborious manual stuff that goes on in the back office. And you're right, SMBs, they're, as 50% of the GDP, they're the lifeblood of the economy. Their cash flow is king. It's their oxygen. And so, and what we have seen in this pandemic, as everyone moved to work through home, everyone's starting to realize that 90% of them still relied on paper processes and paper checks and very antiquated processes. And so it wasn't until the tide went out with everyone working from home that they realized they really got to digitize and automate the back end processes so that they don't sink their business spending so much time here, and they can focus on how to pivot and grow their businesses in other ways, given the uncertain times that we've been in over the past year.
Sure. And let's talk about that. I'm curious. And by the way, as we're talking, just a reminder to everybody, keep your questions coming in, and more so even your comments. Affirm, talk, chat. This is a social platform. Those who are watching us live, those who are listening to the sound of my voice on demand or archive, we're glad you're here too. And feel free to put your comments in there as well. You talked about many business owners are still using paper and non-digital tools, Tom. Why do you think that is? I mean, listen, the technology's easy enough. I'm a customer of Build.com. You go there, do a few clicks, and you're ready. But some do find it's difficult. And you've gone from, of course, Bubbly to House to Build.com. Who knows what's inside of our minds, us as SMBs. Yeah. But there is definitely, I think, a gap. There's those who are the tech nerds, which I say in a good way, who are using it just like that. But many of those who are not, whether it's construction or whatever industry it may be. But anything you've learned that, Ramon, here's why some people are just resisting that move. Anything you're seeing there?
I think it's just a relative order of priorities, right? We call it the SaaS space, in layman's terms, software as a service. All these online tools that have happened over the last 2 decades, starting really with Salesforce and others, looking at customer relationship management, marketing automation, what we would call the front office, really focused on the customer, which people should be. It's customer first, customer focused. That's where everyone was focused on adoption, and it's well penetrated in those markets over the last 2 decades. And it wasn't until sort of and there's the early adopters that started to figure out how to be more efficient and adopt software solutions in the back end, especially around finance and financial services. But once we all went and had to work from home, like I said, the tide went out and everyone realized what was under the sea. And there was people that are saying, look, I have to go to the office still every day when I'm supposed to be in quarantine. I've got to collect the mail. I've got to then buy a scanner, scan bills and invoices at home, send them to different people over email, take a tally on a spreadsheet of who's approved, who hasn't, then print out the checks, drive over to the CFO and the CEO's house every week to have them sign. And some people were querying them because they didn't want to deal with, they were sending Ubers to go do it because they didn't want to deal with it. So they realized just how old school the process was, and they realized that there's got to be a better way. And so we saw a surge in demand that's continued that basically allows them to have all of those bills come automatically into their online platform, just like they were doing the consumer banking, right? And paying their bills that way, but with a lot more business tools for approvals, for a bunch of AI that we've put into it to make it simple to input and read bills and flag things that we think might be concerns, and then automatically pay and schedule it. So it becomes something that you take all that paper and everything in the back office that you used to do and just put it in your back pocket, and you can focus on what you do best in the business.
No, I think that's powerful. And I think that one thing I'm hearing you say, Tom, is the power of automation. And I think we're going to get into some key pillars here in a minute here about, how to grow and et cetera. But I think that there is this gulf. And to your point about COVID for sure has, I think, accelerated. I think one of the stats, you probably know it better than me. I think it's something like COVID has put 10 years of business acceleration in 1 year. Does that ring a bell? Something like that, how it's accelerated what's happened for small and bigger businesses. Have you seen that kind of either for your own company, Bill, and or your customers?
I mean, absolutely, for our company and the tangential markets around us, whether it's Divvy and the spend management, expense management space, all of this sort of back office stuff, I've seen a huge acceleration. I think it's arbitrary whether we say it's 10 years or 5 years, whatever. It's a massive acceleration.
Yes.
And you have that every time there's a tectonic shift or disruption in a market. Yes, there's downside, but it also creates huge upside. And that's the beauty of SMBs and entrepreneurs is we're so quick, nimble, and scrappy that we can quickly pivot and modify our businesses so that we can take advantage of that tectonic shift and the way the world basically just moved under us.
Yeah, no, that's powerful for sure. And when you're thinking, I'm curious, let's take Bill.com for an example. I guess paper is one reason, automation, but what is the pain point people are leaving as they go to a platform like Bill.com, and some other tools that could be as well. But as they go to a platform like Bill.com, what's that pain point they're leaving? Is it where they're thinking, I want to decrease fraud? Is it I'm just tired? I can't mail another check again, or is it unpack who you're seeing the most people coming to? Why?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of the above, right? We'll have clients that come to us after they got hit with an audit, and they're like, I don't have all the paper trail or the files. And if it was all digitized and categorized and searchable, that would help them get through that audit much more streamlined, right? We've got customers who are just like, I need to improve my cash flow because cash in is way more important than cash out. And managing that payables and receivables to optimize your cash flow is the lifeblood of the company. We've got folks that, as they scale the business, there's different people involved in the approval processes, and things are slipping through the cracks or not necessarily feel like they have the control as an owner and entrepreneur that they want to have around what they're spending. They're coming to us. And then there's just speed, wanting to get paid faster, wanting to have more control on what you're paying out. Like, these are all pain points. And labor. Look, we're in a market where, yes, unemployment's high, but we're at a record high of jobs open in the economy, and it's really hard to find labor, especially AP clerks and people that are doing these manual processes on the back end. Save time, save money and not having to hire an AP clerk to do it, but also save time. And, we reduce your time by 50 to 60%. That 50, 60% that you're spending on doing bills, which is important, but if you make it automated, then you can spend it on product development, on thinking about how you pivot, on thinking about your next expansion region or category or area. It just allows you to, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you're running around, you have no time at the base of that pyramid, and all you're focused on is just keeping the lights on. You don't have time to think of the higher pyramid objectives and think about how you can grow the business. And we're trying to free up entrepreneurs and SMBs so they have more time to build the business and less time to worry about the back office headaches.
Tom, if I could indulge you, would you join me in playing a game with me? Do you mind trying
Sure.
that?
Sounds good.
Tom is like, sure, let's see what kind of game Ramon's thinking of here. We're going to do that. I'm going to be the small business owner or the medium-sized business owner that's resisting everything Tom's saying. And let's see if you can, Tom, just demystify or convince me otherwise. So, Tom, thank you for what you're saying. It's too expensive. We have a lot going on. We just had to get PPE for our employees. I'm trying to hire new people. In fact, I can't even hire people, Tom. So this new technology you're talking about, it's way too expensive. I can't afford it. What do you say, Tom?
Yeah, well, clearly we haven't talked price yet because it's not that expensive. And it's, if you're trying to hire someone to work on your back end to get all of this stuff in order, I can tell you right now, we're a fraction of the headcount cost of that person that you can't find right now, Ramon. So if you want to make your life simple and have it all automated and not have human error involved in mistakes that could be very costly, the expense relative to the expense you'd be paying elsewhere with that other person is negligible. So we should get down into the unit economics if you want, but it's not. Most customers like yourself, once they start using it, and it's a no commitment trial to sign up and just start using it. We don't charge the subscription fee up front, just minor transaction fees. You try it. If you don't like it, fine. If you love it, like most customers do, you'll see that it pays for itself quite easily.
Absolutely. And these answers, by the way, as I'm pushing back on these assumptions that we make as business owners, whether it's Bill.com or other technology, my advocacy, get more digitized. I think it's very helpful. So here's an objection number 2, Tom, that many people may say, I'm afraid if I implement it, it's going to be complicated. No one's going to use it. I'm scared. We just learned how to use our smartphone. I can barely do the little thing, with my phone. So I'm scared because we're comfortable using what we're using, Tom. But you're telling me a new tool to bring in, whether it's Bill or other things. Yeah. What do you say with that hesitation, that fear of what we've been using for 37 years, the fax? It works fine. Yeah. What do you say to that hesitation?
Ramon, I love you. These aren't slow pitch. You're putting the ball on a T-ball for me right now. Like that is our biggest advantage. I mean, it's we've done very well as a company, and so we've had lots of people try to emulate our success and build different products. But the biggest advantage by far of Bill.com and now Divvy as well, and the reason we're such a good fit together is simplicity. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. You know, we talk to customers who are looking at alternative solutions, and they're 3 months into the rollout of the software, and it's still not working, it's still not syncing right. You know, we have a half-hour welcome series to get someone on board and running and paying checks and doing bill payments by the end of that half hour. Like it is as frictionless as possible of an onboarding process. And even for larger, what we call mid-market, medium-sized companies, 500 or more employees, it's still, you know, we can get you up and running in a day. And that is, it's a very simple process. We've taken more for the SMB market, you got to take more of a consumer mindset. It's got to be, we're used to as consumers having, like at my past experience at House or Bubbly, having that very simple user intuitive interface is important for, you know, guiding someone through the setup process, the 6 steps, and then they're up and running and you're good to go. I welcome anyone to give it a try. That's why we do this, the free trial, just so that they can see how simple it is for themselves.
Okay, you're flying colors. You're passing the Ramon test here, Tom. So that's tip number 2. As you're looking for software, looking for technology to grow your business, I think that's point number 2. Make sure it's easy enough to use. Third thing.
Yeah. By the way, Ramon, I would say for all software, you should evaluate that because you know some people starting out in a company, they're going to want to go buy, you know, a 1 million square foot automated robotic warehouse when all they need is, you know, something small and basic, an MVP, right, to get started. Same goes for software. Don't overbuild. Buy as you go.
I love it. Absolutely, for sure. So, and as Tom said, we're talking about Bill.com to some degree, but these tips and advice, this applies to growing your business, leveraging the power of technology. Overall, what you should learn from this. A third objection, Tom, and then I'll save some time. I want to get to our 3 key points to unpack these again. But third objection, people may say, Tom, is what about the aspects of, will it scale with my business or connect to other things, Tom? I'm afraid that, you know, I use this, it'll lock me in, or it can't connect. You know, I have one software. It could even be to use social media. It could be a variety of things, but I'm afraid it won't connect to a few other things I use. What do you say to that? About, I'm afraid it's that it can't connect and scale and grow with me. Thoughts on that, Tom?
Yeah, so we've, thanks. You know, I do coach Little League, so I do feel like I'm in it still. But I would say, you know, Bill.com's been around 15 years. We've scaled with some of we're in 4 of the top 5 largest banks in the world, providing the solution to their customers. We're in 80 of the top 100 accounting firms and 5,000 other accounting firms, providing the solution to their customers. Our own customers have scaled tremendously and some of the biggest names out there. But most importantly, we eat our own dog food. Bill.com, I haven't looked at the market today, but we're probably somewhere between a $13, $14 billion market cap. That's not a small company anymore. And we're using Bill.com for our own purposes. We're integrated with everything from all the sort of ERP software out there, everything from a NetSuite and Intact, which you might use later in your business evolution, to QuickBooks Online, which a lot of SMBs start out with, and a bunch of other adjacent tools. So as an SMB owner, I wouldn't be worried about scaling out of Bill.com. You know, as I like to say, that if you get there, that's a good problem to have. Your champagne is too cold. It's a high-class problem, but we'll take care of you for the foreseeable future.
I love it. I love it. So, Tom, let's touch on some 3. We have about 10 more minutes to go. And this has been such a great discussion. Again, those listening to the sound of my voice, feel free to put your comments or questions in. We can answer them live here, and or the Bill.com team is ready to help answer to how you can grow. Again, yes, we're talking about Bill.com, but the principles we're sharing about leveraging digital tools to grow is so important. 3 key things, Tom, I want to dive into as we have the final about 9 or so minutes to go here. Efficiency, scale, and speed. Let's touch on these 3 things, what you've learned, Tom, at Bill.com, and what you've learned from the other companies, and even from your own customers. So efficiency. Why is that a key thing that you find for growing companies, this aspect of efficiency? It's a word that's thrown around quite a bit. What does it mean to you, and what should we look at as we're looking to be more efficient companies? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to, as the individual business owner, as simple as your own time management and spending stuff and you're focusing your time on what moves the needle in the business and trying to digitize and automate stuff that needs to be done, but is not the best use of your time. And so that starts when you're a small business. And as you scale out, that becomes more and more important. If you're not efficient with your time, if you're not efficient with processes that you can automate and digitize, as opposed to trying to do it the way maybe our parents did it when they were running a business, you're just going to fall behind because your competitors are going to get there. And so always trying to think about how you can do things faster and in a more efficient way with a lower cost, and efficiency is broader than just your own time too. Like when we, as Bill.com or any business I'm running, when I'm thinking about growing customers and getting to more customers, marketing efficiency is important. Whether I put dollars into Facebook or I put them into Google or I put them into events, like I'm looking at the return on each of those, and that's marketing efficiency, right? And so looking at those ratios across every function is very important.
I love that. Let's move to a second pillar that I know is real important to you and, of course, to entrepreneurs and small and medium-sized businesses is the aspect of scale. And I think there's two types of scale, Tom. There's those startups and others who are going to be the next billion-dollar brands and growing fast. And I must say, for me, Tom, scale also means, as my friend Seth Godin, famous marketer, says, scale to your choice. Whatever scale means, could be scaling to go fishing 3 days a week. I don't know, but talk to me about that, Tom. What does scale mean for Bill.com, for you? What can we learn from your experience about scale?
Yeah. So there are very different definitions, and I've got plenty of analogies out there I've seen. For Bill.com and for myself, we're focused on scaling to a very large revenue number and a much bigger multiple of what we are today as a business. And because that's what the markets want from us. And that's where the fun is. I love to scale. I was brought in to scale. I've done it a couple of times in what we call, hyper growth phases, and where you're inside the tornado and everything's just moving so fast and you just got to keep your head above water and make smart decisions on the fly. That's a lot of fun. And if you haven't been a part of it, I would highly suggest it to all of your listeners. But then there's also the scale, and that is a different type of mindset than the other type of scale, which is I want to scale my business such that I'm not involved in everything, and I could take a couple of days off. I can take a vacation. I can shut off on the weekends. Like that's a lifestyle type of scaling that's very important to especially SMB owners, right? But there's one key thing I think to both of those that's a commonality that's I think the most important to scaling, and that's just hiring people. You're only as good as your team. And if you hire the best people and the best lieutenants and you invest in them and you grow them and you focus on their personal and career growth, not only do they remain loyal and committed to you, but they allow you to scale. Like if you try to do everything yourself and you try to just hire warm bodies, you're never going to scale. Like it's all about hiring better than yourself and functional expertise. And that'll enable you to scale, whether it's a lifestyle SMB type of scale or it's wanting to scale to the next multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. I think it's comforting because, again, it is a choice. You can scale, and there's entrepreneurs across a wide range, how one wants to scale. Seems like we need to have another discussion, Tom, about mindset and leadership. I have a feeling something inside. You could do a whole book on that. I have a feeling. And then, Tom, there's a third leg that I know is real important to you, and that's speed, which I think is a cousin to efficiency and scale. I think all three kind of hinge on each other. Why is speed so important for that business owner? I found it in myself, and especially I think all of us have seen things move. We don't know what's happening tomorrow versus what's happening last week. It's like sometimes your head can spin. But what is speed so important, and what have you learned that we can learn from you, Tom?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. They're triplets. So it's like a TP with 3 sticks, and you take one away, the other 2 fall apart. Without speed, you don't have efficiency and scale either. Speed is moving fast as you can, but also moving smartly, making the right decisions. Like you need to step back and look at what's going on and constantly keep an eye on the overall goal and the bigger picture, but then run fast and execute. And it's better to, I think it was, it might have been Reid Hoffman who said, MVP. We have this concept in the tech industry of minimal viable product, right? And just get something out there. If you're not upset or frustrated with your product launch, then you're moving too slow. Wow. So don't put something out there that's fully baked and has all the bells and whistles. Put a minimal viable product, get customers using it, test and learn, iterate, and take feedback from customers and add to it and evolve. And so that's a way to listen to your customer, but move as fast as possible without trying to get everything perfect out of the gate. And that's a scrappiness that I think is important for any SMB out there.
Well, so let me ask Tom, what about people who are saying, but I just wait one more day, one more week, one more month, one more year. It's not quite the right blue color, or it's still, and I'm having some fun here, but is there a delta between, imperfect and maybe you shouldn't release it versus, no, this is good enough for the market, for my customers to do it? Just to underline it a bit more, talk about that a bit more. We can learn from that.
Look, I mean, we've created artificial steps in the way in the tech industry. We've got betas and alphas and other things we classify to try to mitigate customers' expectations of thinking it's a fully baked product. I think that's one way to go about it. But at the end of the day, you're not really going to learn about what the customer, how the customer values it, what they use, what they don't use, what features they want, until it's out there and in their hands. And so maybe you don't want to put it out there for general availability to all customers. Okay, go get 10 customers just kicking the tires. Get family and friends. Use it internally. Like, there's other ways to get it out there, as opposed to, because what you don't want to do is be in this ivory tower decision-making process where you're thinking this blue is wrong or that's wrong, when it probably doesn't matter to the end user. The end user wants XYZ feature that you haven't even thought of yet. And that's way more valuable than what Pantone you're using.
Yeah, I think that's powerful indeed. And sometimes we get caught up in things that are not so important. They're all important, but not important at that right minute. Again, Tom Clayton, Chief Revenue Officer of Bill.com. Listen, this has been such a fascinating discussion. And Tom, I encourage everybody, if you've heard this discussion and like the things we're talking about, Bill.com definitely, and I know, Tom, you'll agree, is a service, is a company, is a platform that can help you grow your business. And you can find all that information at Bill.com. For sure. And then, Tom, just to give you space, feel free. We've said quite a bit today. We've learned a bit from you today. But what's that one or two messages, Tom, that you want us to understand? And those listening, people will be listening to this months afterward from you, Tom, how they can grow, how they can scale. Feel free to summarize what you've talked about today.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I joined Bill.com because I believe in the mission. We're a champion for SMBs. Having been a serial entrepreneur, really resonating with Renee and his 4th generation entrepreneurship story. We can empathize. Everyone, you go read the tech blogs and TechCrunch and stuff like that, they all talk about the success stories, but they don't talk about the grind day in and day out. And there's a lot more tough days than there are great days. And so we've been there and done that and can empathize. And that's why we're here to make your life easier and try to take stuff off your plate that shouldn't be distracting you and help you automate it so that you can focus on where you're adding value. And, reach out to us, reach out to me, reach out to the team. We're here to help. We've got your back.
Absolutely love it. Listen, and we want you to go digital. We've talked, of course, about mindset, leadership, speed, efficiency, and more. We definitely want you to grow your business. And one way to do that, there's a lot of ways to grow your business, but I think one way is the financial leg of your business, as Tom has talked about to a degree here with Bill.com, the accounts payable, accounts receivable, things like that. Bill.com definitely can help. So if you're listening to the sound of my voice, definitely use your keyboard and go to Bill.com and check them out and see how they can help your business. Again, on behalf of Tom, on behalf of myself, on behalf of Bill.com, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us for this powerful discussion. Have a pleasant day and go grow your business.